Masking is a technique that allows us to hide portions of an object from view while displaying others. This lesson demonstrates how to use masking effectively in a project. So here I have what's basically a blank stage, nothing in the timeline. In my library, I have a bitmap image here, and I'm going to drag an instance of this out onto my stage and perform a basic transform on it, like this. Okay. Now I'm going to create an additional layer. This is going to serve as my mask layer. And for a mask, you can actually use any sort of shape that you want. I'm going to use a simple circle for my mask, just like that. Also, one thing I like to do with any elements such as motion guides or masks and things of that nature that don't actually show up when you publish your actual composition is that I like to use this bright green color to define those things. And when I do that, in that way, it's sort of like a visual cue that tells me that it isn't going to actually show up. You might have your own techniques for this sort of thing, but I've found that useful over the years. So how do we actually make this a mask, and then how do we animate it across our project? Well, it's pretty simple. To create a mask, we simply click on the layer we want to make the mask layer. So right-click and choose Mask. So we see an obvious change here. Anything that is underneath the mask is showing through the mask. Anything outside of the mask is disappeared. In my timeline, we can see that the mask layer itself has obtained a new icon. The layer that's actually being masked also has a new icon and is obviously nested within the mask. If we wanted to, we could actually pull this out, and now it's no longer masked. Placing it back in will allow that to be masked again. And note that you can actually place multiple layers underneath a mask layer, and the mask will affect all of those layers. By default, both of these layers are actually locked. So I'm going to unlock them. And when you unlock layers that are being masked, you'll be able to see all of their pieces. And to see how everything appears again, you would simply just lock the layers. So what I want to do is actually go through and animate this to be sort of like a spotlight. So let's travel to frame 70 here, and I'm going to go and insert frames across to frame 70. So now we have at least something set up for animation. I can actually lock down my image layer, which best practice dictates we should actually name both of these images, or rather both of these layers. So now that they're both named properly and I have my image locked down, I can go ahead and create a tween here. So I'm going to create a shape tween since this is a shape. So I can right click on here and choose Create Shape Tween. And right now it's a broken shape tween because I only have one keyframe at the beginning. So if I want to create additional keyframes, I can simply do that by going to, say, frame 20 and saying Insert Keyframe. So from frame 20, I'll move my mask up there and maybe even perform some transforms on it, like some scale. Let's go to frame 35, or around there, insert keyframe. Maybe frame 50. And then perhaps frame 65. Insert a keyframe there. Let's travel back up here and actually extend this. And then for frame 70, we don't actually want to have a broken tween here. So we're going to add one more keyframe, and nothing really has to happen there. We're just going to have that stay where it is. So let's go back to frame 1 and lock down our mask layer. And we can see that our spotlight comes up, travels down, and then goes up and expands. So to see this in action, we can go Control, Test Movie, Test. And of course, we could apply any sort of easing that we want to this, and even create other transforms upon the shape object that's being tweened. So this has been an example of using masking in an animation within Flash Professional CS6.